Hey guys, my new song Call It Love is out and has been out for a little while, so I was just gonna make a quick video explaining how it was made.
Outrageous.
That is actually Pernetic, a friend of mine and like fellow Twitch streamer, somebody that's in the Discord. And the reason that the sample's at the very beginning of the song instead of mixed in with the composition of everything else, I really wanted to have a song that just opens with a sample. I think that the first few seconds of a song are really crucial, especially if somebody listens to this song multiple times in their life. And I was thinking about how certain like drums in a very beginning of a song are so iconic. Those are some examples of where it's drums, but I really wanted to do it where it was a sample, and that's why the beginning of the song is opened with this outrageous.
Outrageous.
So that's where that came from, and thank you again, Pernetic, for providing that one. Now, the second sample that is like really consistent throughout the song is this one. I mean, this is like the bedrock of this entire song. Right? It's just that looped. Now, to explain where that comes from, I actually kind of have to bring up Just Believing again. The song that I released right before this one was called Just Believing, and that sample that I just played, that this entire song is kind of built off of, comes from the bridge of Just Believing. So I'll quickly play a section of the bridge in Just Believing that sample comes from. So I took this first section right here, and I just played it backwards. And then later in the bridge, there's this section here, and I just played that backwards as well. And so you put those two reversed chops together, and you have... The next unique section of the song is the chorus, in which I have these piano chords, and I use my MX61 to play these. It's just a preset within my keyboard. Now, I specifically wanted to go with these big open chords, even with the bass line. And the reason for that is because in a lot of like pop songs, you have these kind of simple chords, and a lot of the melodic information is provided with the singer, with the vocals. And I wanted to do that for this song, which is why the chords are pretty sparse. The third sound that I add on top of those chords, though, is this sound. Now, what is that? That's just an arpeggiator. For anybody that doesn't know what an arpeggiator is, it's basically like a chord or any like grouping of notes where they're being played in an alternate pattern. You know, they're not being played all together at once like a chord would be. They're kind of being like strummed in a weird way. And if I take the effects actually off of that, you can hear that it is just like this synthesizer arpeggiator. Now what I did is I added some delay to give it a little bit more space. And then I added some reverb to give it a little bit more body. And then I added a second reverb. What I did with the second reverb, though, is I turned down the dry signal and I turned up the wet signal to give it this kind of cloudy sound. For anybody that doesn't mess with a lot of synths or music stuff and they don't understand what I'm saying when I say dry signal and wet signal, basically there's an original sound that goes into an effects unit, and then there's an affected sound that comes out the other end. But you can actually split the two apart and make it so that the original sound that goes in is muted, and you only have the weird affected sound. Think about like if you were to go into a cave and you scream or something like that. You can hear your own voice and you can hear the reverb of your voice bouncing off the walls of the cave. When I say turn down the dry and keep the wet, it would be like basically going into a cave and hearing your scream come off of the walls without ever actually having to have screamed in the first place. It's really creepy, actually. It's a really creepy analogy. I'm sure there's a less creepy analogy to come up with. Anywho, I basically did that, and it gives it this kind of like cloudy, muddy sound. Now, the final thing I did to the sound was that same last step twice. So when you're turning down the dry and turning up the wet, you can basically just keep doing that over and over, making kind of like a daisy chain out of it. And it just further dilutes the sound with the affected sound. And I use the word dilution because I think it's actually a really good analogy for people that don't mess with sound a lot. For example, if I have a cup of coffee and a cup of water and I pour out half of the cup of coffee and then fill up the remaining bit with water, I now have like a half water, half coffee mix. But if I pour half of that mix out and then fill up the rest with water, it's been diluted even further. And you can keep doing that over and over and over. And the pretty cool thing about it is you just get further and further diluted coffee, and you'll never truly get rid of the coffee. There will always be at least a little bit of coffee in there. And that's basically what's happening to this sound, because once I add the final step, it goes from sounding like this to sounding like this. See, super murky, super cloudy. Now, those original notes that I had in the very beginning are definitely still in there. They're just being diluted so much that it's creating more of like a sonic bed of sound instead of these very specific notes. The final bit in the course that I want to talk about is these bell notes right here. So why those notes? Specifically those notes because there was a song that I loved so many years ago by a band called Black Kids called I'm Making Eyes at You, I believe. And in that song, there's this really catchy hook.
Oh, please don't speak. You're building a steep, oh baby, let's not dance. We'll ruin our
Da 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 da. Now the cool thing about it is my song's in a completely different key, so it doesn't sound too close, and I add a bunch of stuff on top of it, including a vocal melody that doesn't line up with those notes, so it's really, really buried. You know, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just straight up ripping off Black Kids, and I didn't want to sound too derivative, and honestly, if I didn't make this video, I don't think anybody would have recognized it anyway. Now, the next unique part of this song is the bridge, which I can't really talk about without bringing on the person who actually made it, so I'm gonna call Zeph now. Hello. Hello, I'm here with Zeph. This is Zeph, a like composer, singer, songwriter, producer.
Composer.
Yeah, I'm gonna use the word composer for very good reason, which I'll probably get to later. But no, I'm definitely gonna get to it later. But yeah, what would you call yourself? Like if you had to introduce yourself?
I usually just say I do music.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. The same thing. I use like a lot of fancy words.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I don't consider myself a singer. Because I only started singing like 4 years ago.
No, that's fair. I get that. When people talk about like, oh, this person's like a gamer. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, I play video games, but I'm not like a gamer.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I'm like, I sing, but like, because mostly it's the like, I guess the producing and writing part that I feel like I'm good at. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Like I do music.
No, I get that. I absolutely get that. But I mean, you did all 3 or 4 in this song. And so I was just like knocking on like compose, okay, like arranged, like sang, like wrote lyrics, produced, and like all of these things. And so it's like, it's definitely within your skill set as like an artist, like getting into stuff, because you said you've been doing you've been doing more composing and producing maybe longer than you've been singing. So what got you into that? Like what was your impetus to getting into that like path artistically?
I guess when I was 3 I had like a toy piano that I would play, and then my mom noticed that I had like an affinity for it, and I guess like because I had relative pitch, I would like figure out songs as a 3-year-old and play them on like a little tiny piano. So then she took me to piano lessons, and then I took piano lessons from when I was 3 until I was like, I think
3's so young.
I know. There's like picture. I have a picture somewhere of me. I'll send it to you if I find it. Oh, I don't think I ever I just realized this. My first ever like experience like arranging is on my like electric piano thing. There's a setting where you can record and then play something and then it'll play it back, right?
Oh, okay.
Like a little recording that you played on the piano. So I would record like one part and then I would play it back while playing another part on top at the same time as my recording was playing. So that's like the first. That's how I got into like understanding how tracks work, I guess.
Yeah, and like layering stuff. Like
yeah.
Like...
That's I just realized just now. That's the first time I ever did that because I was homeschooled. I went on a bunch of really weird field trips. So I went to the Apple store because they were having
as a field trip.
Yeah, like a homeschool field trip. Because there was like a class for teaching kids how to use GarageBand, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Because I was like, I don't have to press record and play it live at the same time. I can like actually like record different things and like use different instruments. That's where I discovered MIDI instruments. But
then was GarageBand like your first DAW then that you were working on? Okay.
My mom literally got me and my sisters an iPad to share because of GarageBand, because she saw again like how I guess educational it was and how much like I was good at it. I picked it up really fast. So she got it for us literally because of GarageBand, and then I would go on make my little songs on GarageBand like every single day. Even that back then, as like a 10-year-old, you can like, if I could get the iPad to work and if I still had it, I would show you. But like even back then, my first ever songs included a lot of like the twinkly bell sounds and like strings, because I've been obsessed with strings forever because I grew up on you know how like people play Mozart or whatever for their kids?
Yeah.
Like make them smart.
So like they make them smart, yeah.
Yeah, she would do that for me. She would play like Mozart. My favorite movie growing up was Barbie Princess and the Pauper, and the soundtrack has a lot of like strings in it and stuff too.
Wow.
So and then my first ever artist that I voluntarily listened to like on my own was Owl City. He uses a lot of strings too. So like
that's fair.
I've been like consuming scores through like plays or movies, and then like all this stuff for like, so I've had my like music style kind of set like from when I was 3. I
That's
like
so
the
cool.
same. Yeah.
I get that.
What was
that.
the question?
No, it's just like what started you on that path, right? Because you were like, oh, I don't necessarily identify as a singer so much as like a composer or like a producer and like a songwriter. So it's like, so where did that start?
Yeah. Sorry, getting me back on track. Okay, so like back to like the GarageBand thing, right? So I would do that for a really long time, and then in high school I took a music tech class because they were teaching us how to use like other DAWs and stuff. Okay, because I had never made like music on a computer before. I just like the iPad, but then I got a mic and a keyboard, and then I started making my little songs on my laptop, and then I upgraded to Logic, and that's where I make all my music.
Oh, okay. So you're still in Logic now?
Yes.
Cool.
I guess I really did not have any interest in singing until I think, did I ever tell you the story about how my ex's ex made music and then I got jealous because I had a crush on my ex before we started dating when they were dating their ex, and then they showed me
wait stop.
Did I not tell you this?
I'm so okay. Wait, just like back up for a second, because you said the word X like 6 times, and I got like completely lost.
Because literally, my music career is built off of like a villain origin story. Because I was like very petty. Basically, basically, God, this is a long story. My ex's ex, who they were with before I started dating them, while I had a crush on my ex. Basically, my ex had a girlfriend at the time.
Yes.
When we were still friends. And I got jealous. And she made music. Oh, but it's not as good if I don't tell the whole story. Because it's like a really
Go for it.
Oh, God. Okay. Okay, so I had like a giant crush on my ex at the time. And they were telling me what they're going to do for their ex's and then like anniversary, right? She had a band camp where she would post like covers. And then she had one little original song on there.
Okay.
And for their anniversary, my ex was gonna make a cover, like a fully produced, because my ex did music too, made a fully produced cover of the song that she wrote.
The original song. Yeah,
the original song. And then put it at the end of the playlist. And then they're like showing it to me, and I was like pissed off because I was like, man, this is kind of a good song. And I didn't want to like it, and I didn't want to hear about that because like why would you don't like when people talk about like other. No. Yeah, I'm like, I don't care that y'all are dating, like don't tell me about this, like because I was jealous. And then after I heard the song And then the cover that my ex did, I was like fully pissed off. So I was sitting at my little piano when I like got the audio message. I like listened to it on my phone and I was like, man. And I put my phone down, and while I was at my piano, I was like, if she can like write songs, so can I. So I was like, that's how I'm gonna make myself feel better about this.
Did it work?
The piano. The second I put down my phone, I took the chords that she put in her song, played them on the piano, wrote my own like lyrics and melody over her like song. So like her chords and her melody and lyrics, I wrote my own part and sang it. Like I produced my own little thing. So you couldn't tell that it was like the same thing.
Yeah.
So I did my own part and then I layered it. I put it over my ex's cover of her song. So it sounds like a duet. I can send it to you.
Oh my
still
God.
Have it. This is my first ever song I ever wrote.
Wow.
It was out of being petty. And then I layered the song. Basically, I sang my part over that song and I sent it back. I'm insane. I sent a song that was basically the lyrics were like, you should be with me instead. I sent it over her song that my ex was covering for their anniversary. And I sent it back.
God.
I know. This is my first song I ever wrote. And I sent it back and I was like, now what? And then after I did that though, I was like, wait, that was kind of fun. What if I just keep doing this?
That's wild. I mean, to be fair, that's extremely petty. But
Yes,
I feel like
I know.
some people just like, I don't know, like slash tires or like will egg someone's house. But at least you had like a really creative way to be petty.
I was productive with it.
That was really cool. And it like led to a bunch of really other dope things. Like, that's wild though.
You know, who would have thought?
Was this all like, wait, okay, so from you hearing the song to you sending the song to them, how much time had passed?
Oh god, like an hour.
See, okay, I'm glad you said that because that's so on the path of what I wanted to talk to you about. Because first of all, that's ridiculous.
How fast I like do stuff.
Yeah, like that's insane.
It was a very simple, very short song, but I'll send it to you if I can find it.
Yeah, for sure. Please do. Going into like you getting into like songwriting and having like your different path into it. There's an artist named Brian Eno. He's like this really, really great songwriter and producer and like makes a lot of like really lush soundscapes and things like that. He like produced like a Coldplay record.
That's cool.
He's like wild, so dope. And so like he's doing a lot of that, but he also wrote the like Windows 95 or like one of the like Windows startup thing. Yeah, which is like ridiculous. When they were commissioning him, they were just like, oh, can you make something that's like futuristic, but also like mysterious and like hopeful and happy and like also kind of like mechanical. Like they gave him like all of these adjectives and they were like, oh, and can it be like somewhere between like 3 and 4 seconds also? Because
that's crazy.
Yeah. And so like he reportedly, I don't know if it's true or not, but he reportedly made like over 80 like versions of like all of these things. And he was like, it was such a great experience going back to writing like a 3-minute song. He was just like, this is like oceans of time. Like I have so much that I can work with now. And you were doing a lot of short songs. That's actually how I found out about you, is like you were just posting all these like really short songs. And I, of course,
that's
I'm sure
I kind of found you. I found your videos on Twitter. You like making the like remix covers kind of things.
Yeah, just like running around from like keyboard to keyboard. Yeah, and it's like you did have to work pretty fast in order to like get an idea out. And I would see all of these short things that you were making, and I was like, these are really cool. These are really cool. And you have a specific song though that's a little bit longer, but it's called "It Should Have Been You," and
that's more recent.
Yes, it's so good. And it's weird. You are able to kind of like stretch time in a way where like 2 minutes for me feels like the blink of an eye. But when I'm listening to a 2-minute song by you, I'm like, wow, a lot is happening. And you've been able to like
a lot is happening.
Well, because it's like, oh, you'll like control the pacing of it where there's like a lot of like downtime. There's a big crescendo. There is a climax that doesn't feel too short.
And I think where I learned like the pacing and like crescendo things in like such a short amount of time is anime openings. Like, you know how theme songs are like only a minute and a half or so, right? But there's so much happening. I feel like I started to like do that a lot, where like I start like with pretty and then I like make it like, that's my new favorite thing to do is like make songs like be quiet and then like explode at one point. So I just think I really like the contrast.
The reason why I wanted to work with you on this song is because it's like there was a controlled amount of space in the song, and I'm like, I really like telling stories through music, and I was like, I need something that's going to be different here, but it's only like 40 seconds. And I was like
who do I
Yeah.
know to make a short ass song?
it was like I felt like I was like freaking like Nick Fury, and I was like assembling a team, and I was just like, who do I know that
That's
can
so
make
funny.
an entire idea in 40 seconds
Who
and it
can make
won't
a 40
feel
second
rushed?
orchestra.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I was like,
That's
okay.
so funny.
And it worked out perfectly. And so like pivoting from that, I do want to get into your specific approach, hearing it, because for everybody watching this video, I sent the entire song, but I also just sent the bridge, you know, that you were going to be writing to. It's just this like piano progression that doesn't really like do a lot. It's like just
That's how you build off though. That's like what I do. I'll hear like simple things and I'll be like, I suddenly hear all the stuff around it.
yeah.
I'll
And so
put it down.
when I sent that to you, what was your approach in like making all the stuff that you did? Because there's just so much. Like you have, the funny thing is like if I show people the tracks,
Mhm.
like of the stems of the track, it's like I have all these stems here, and then it gets to the bridge, and it's like this huge mountain.
I saw it.
It's like this
God.
huge, like thick thing of stems, and then it just goes back to being this like little skinny thing. And I'm like, half of the song, yeah, it's only 40 seconds, which is not time-wise half of the song, but a good like 65% of the song is that chunk there. And
That's
so, like,
so funny.
what was your approach to that?
I wanted it to fit the song. That's why, because the song's very kind of like chill, right? So
Right.
I would usually, if I'm doing like a big like epic thing, I'll do a lot of like staccato strings and whatever. But I was like, it's too like pretty and like twinkly. I want to like, but basically I usually start with strings, middle range. I'll like start with like either like violas or like whatever, and then I'll like go from there, and then I'll add like little things that I hear, and I'll like put like for rhythm probably like staccato in there. I guess the song is so vague. I don't know how to. I just like. So I like no, literally sometimes I'll make an orchestra and then I'll come back listen to it later. I'm like, I don't know how I did that. Like it's like a blackout, and then I come back and I'm like,
No, I believe that, just because when I remember I sent the idea to you, and the thing that's wild that I should probably tell everybody is like we were both like moving around a lot. Like you, when I first
oh yeah,
sent
this
you
was
the
so,
thing,
I was so
Yeah,
bad
like-
at texting because I was like trying to figure out my moving situation, and then I was like out of the state and I was back, and then
you were like touring, and then like I was gone and I was out of the state for a little while, and then like I went like home to visit my parents and you weren't home, and then I like sent it, and I was just like, oh man, is this ever gonna get done? And I have a very specific memory, and I might even still have like the text thread of it. Was just like, oh, is he trying to escape?
yes, come here. Go home. Come here.
I have like this very specific memory of you sending a text that was just like, okay, like I think I'm gonna start now, and it was like you wearing like headphones with like a thumbs up, and I was like, oh okay, and I was like in my car because I was like going to like practice with like this other band, and so I like saw the text and I was like, okay, cool, now I have that to put on the back burner so that like that's a thing that's like the ball's out of my court now, I don't have to worry about it. And I like got to the practice space and like we play or whatever, and like maybe like 2 hours went by and there was just like a file showed up, and I was like, oh, okay, hold on guys, like I gotta go listen to this. And I was expecting it to be like, oh, here's what I was thinking,
Real
like a little,
progress. Like a little demo.
yeah, just like maybe a couple of instruments, and like go into like the bathroom in this like weird practice space that I like have the phone to my ear, and it's just like Kingdom Hearts like plays, like
Kingdom
this
Hearts.
giant like freaking and like orchestral arrangement plays, and it was just this one file, you from like this thumbs up like gremlin mode
Working.
photo of like, yeah, I think I'm gonna work on it now, to like an entire orchestra, and I was just like, this is stupid.
For me, it comes really easy to me because I've been doing it for so long. I'm like, how do I make this cinematic? How do I add like a me type thing to it? I don't
Yeah.
know. So I was excited because I was like, it's a very catchy song. And that already made me want to add an orchestra to it. I was like, perfect, that's my job here.
The vocals for it too. I guess what I want to portray to people that are looking at this that don't make music is like, when you're making music, a lot of people think that you can just add endlessly, right? Like you can just like, oh, here's a piano part, here's a bass part, here's like a violin part, here's vocals, there's more vocals, that you could just do that and it'll just sound good. But you can't. You can't do that. Like there has to be a method or like a rhyme or reason to things, or else you just end up with this like headroomless like mess that is just
I used
a
to do
cacophony.
that all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, so like explain how you went from that to, because you use space so effectively now, where there will be instruments that only play maybe like 4 notes in the entire
Yeah.
arrangement.
I learned that from listening to other songs. I would like hear them use like an instrument like one time, and I was like, huh, interesting. Maybe I should try that. Because I remember I used to like literally what you said, like just layer like everything. Because I was like too into like arranging, so I would like just basically loop everything and make it build until it was like all playing at the same time. And I was like, this is like. Then I listened back and like this sounds like muddy. So I don't know. So lately I've been trying to like if I introduce something new, I'll like drop something else out or like. I don't know, or I'll like keep things similar sometimes. So like I still want a twinkly sound here, but if I'm like adding like a piano, I'll like drop out like the music box or something to like make it subtly change like the mood of it while keeping the like energy. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Absolutely.
But I definitely used to do like the chaos, just like 30 tracks of like whatever at the same time.
That's good. I mean, that's good for you to mention and talk about, because I'm sure a lot of people listening
There's a
to
learning
your music,
curve.
yeah, like they don't realize that that's the thing that you have to work on, and something that like it's easy to hear in an orchestra and just think it's just a bunch of instruments playing at the same time. And I could even like go and look at your arrangement, and there was like, it's like a puzzle, right? Where like things would play and then your voice would come in for just this section and then drop out and other stuff would come in. And it was nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I forgot what was I gonna say. Oh yeah, I used to just do like a thing where I would like make the whole song, like the whole instrumental first, and then like just like record and then be done with it. But now I've been trying to pay more attention to like, again, like the arranging. I want to like drop stuff out. So now I'll actually spend time and like go back and be like, actually, do I even want this here? And I'll like turn it down and then end up like deleting the whole like part at like a certain place. And my new method is I'll like record like the basic part of the. Sorry, this is like not answering a question.
No, go for it. The answer's in there.
It's there somewhere. We'll find it. I'll like record like the very basic like idea of the song, and then I'll record the like lead vocal first, so I can make sure to go around that instead of having it all like crazy. I'll like make the instrumentals frame certain parts and like emphasize like certain like things I'm saying to like. It's like a soundtrack basically to the lyrics. Like that's how I try to think about it.
I mean, everybody kind of has their like fingerprint or their signature or whatever on their compositions, even if you don't feel like you do. I often don't feel like I have like a sound, but people will be like, oh no, I can hear it, like it's in there.
No, I definitely hear it.
Yeah. And like there's a very specific part of the song that I wanted to highlight, and I don't even know if you remember it, and if you don't, it's super fine, but it's literally it's like 3 notes at the very end of your arrangement. There's like these pizzicato strings.
Oh yeah.
And it's just 3 notes, but like it's the most you fingerprint thing of like there's usually a point in your arrangements that's very, I don't want to say it in an insulting way, like jingly, but those like 3 notes, it's like a jingle that would be like in a commercial or something, or like the Brian Eno thing I was talking about.
I used to get told that a lot when I was in my high school music tech class. I literally had emails from, I would like submit assignments, like I'd make it like a little song, send it as like my homework, and then my teacher would be like, you should really look into making jingles for commercials.
It's such a strength, and it was such a good way to end your composition for that.
I thought it was like a little cute, quirky, like.
And it allowed me to like write around it, where it's like my vocals went with it, and I like did some stuff to instruments to like highlight it. It was really, really cool to like kind of have that bow at the end of like this very, very complex thing.
So like how you like left it open and like you just did like the chords and like little things for me to build off of. That's cool. How I didn't even realize that you like built stuff around mine, but that's cool. It's like,
yeah, it's nice. It's nice. But yeah, that's everything, I guess. To round it up or to end the conversation, is there anything like, because this was very, for everybody listening and watching, this was very 50-50, where it's like I did composition for this, I did lyrics.
I had 40 seconds.
40 seconds. I'm gonna show people. You keep saying 40 seconds. I'm gonna show people what you did. File. Yeah, like because I did composition and I did arrangement. Sure,
you made the whole song. This wouldn't have been the song if it wasn't for you. What do you mean?
I definitely started this song, but for everything that I did, for sure, like I wrote lyrics to this song, I performed vocals for this song, I did composition for this song, I came up with chords for this song. All of these things also were done by you. And I would argue that even though it was done in a shorter span of time, it was done with like greater force and care. because there's just more there. And it's like, and the same thing as the Bryant Eno Windows thing. It's like, it's easy to write a lot in 3 minutes. Like it's because there's so much room, but to be able to have the skill to write a lot in 40 seconds, I think is equal to, if not more impressive. This was like, this song felt very much like a Zeph shaped hole, where I was just like, I don't know who else can like do the thing that I would like to see done in this space. So I'm glad that it ended up working out.
Yeah, I'm honored that you picked me. Because I remember too, when you first asked me if like we want to collab, it was like a long time ago.
It was a really long time ago.
And we ended up not doing anything. Yeah, no, but that was like when I was just starting out with like music, so I was like very caught off guard. I was like, you trust me? I've like barely been doing this. I was like, that's crazy. And because I found you on Twitter, I was like fangirling. I was like, whoa, me?
No, I'm glad.
And also it meant a lot because like at the time too, like I didn't have a lot of people like musicians like taking me seriously because I just started, and I was like, I'm just like the internet, whatever. I get that still.
Right.
We were like, she's not actually a musician. She's just like doing music because every like influencer do music now. I'm like, I've been doing music since I was 3. Like, but I hope this interview, I hope those people who think that I am just doing it because whatever see this.
Same. I hope so too, because there is a thing. Like, I mean, people don't see how hard it is to compose a song, and I think that is what drew me to your music. Like I said, that you were making stuff in a very short amount of time, but there was no like smoke and mirrors about it. You were constantly posting like photos and videos of like, so here's one of my arrangements, and I was like, this is what people should be like posting if they're making music, because this is like, as somebody who doesn't make music, that can be really inspiring, where you're like, okay, it isn't just magic. It's like people are actually doing things. As a musician, it's also admirable to see somebody else like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes people are good at a thing and they try to like hide it. I don't know. Yeah, they're like afraid that somebody might get as good as them, but you were always really open about your creative process, which was really cool.
But I want to make sure people like can hear how much effort I'm putting into like my little orchestras. It was like my favorite thing. Because my dream job since I was 10 was to be a movie score composer. So I'm like, I'm going to sneak that in there, but I'm also going to shove it in y'all's faces while I'm doing it at the same time.
Thank you so much for first of all, for working on the song with me, and also for doing this like interview / conversation explanation video. Like, I think it'll be helpful.
Thank you for having me.